Hi, my name is Alana Bartol, and I'm an artist based in Mohkinstsis, Alberta, and I'm here at the University of Lethbridge Art Gallery with my new exhibition, Processes of Remediation, Art, Relationships, Nature. So the exhibition is really inspired by the past, present, and future of coal mining in what is now known as the Crow's Nest Pass, Alberta. And the project began looking at kind of the histories of coal mining in Lethbridge and southwestern Alberta. As the project evolved, there were some policy changes in the province. The Alberta government revoked the coal policy that was established in 1976 to protect ecologically sensitive areas like the Rocky Mountains and foothills. And so with the removal of that coal policy, it was put in place to protect those areas from open pit coal mining. So with the policy gone, these areas could now potentially become the future sites of mines. And so in looking at this research, at the history of coal mining in the region, I was really thinking about how the past is very present and how do we understand and feel that past history in the present day and kind of look to it when we are imagining the future for this place.
I'm Josephine Mills, and I'm the Director-Curator of the University of Lethbridge Art Gallery. I believe in the power of art to open up conversations, to bring people together and be able to have a discussion where they have a difference of opinion, or to be able to have that kind of learning about something that is complicated and difficult to understand, but also complicated in the sense of being controversial.
The exhibition presents a lot of information about the project. There are QR codes that you can scan when you enter one of the smaller gallery space, and you're taken to different websites, different groups that have been holding events, writing about, doing a lot of activism around the Grassy Mountain Coal Project. And so it's kind of inviting the audience into a space to kind of learn about the issue for themselves, and a way to kind of open up and share the research that I've done.
So this project started well over a year ago, and it didn't start that we were going to come out with an exhibition that was on the Grassy Mountain open pit coal mine, and it was going to be super timely with there being debate amongst the general public about it. How it started was based on a research process. We knew that there's a climate crisis. We knew that there are people who don't believe there's a climate crisis, but it wasn't about addressing something specifically. I selected Alana because of her past work, because of the way she works, but also that she has addressed these kinds of issues. And then it was about supporting her, about giving her the resources and the time and the space to dig into a new project that would build on the work that she had already done with the Orphan Well project, but would allow her to explore.
When I began the research for this project, I visited the Crow's Nest Pass. I was staying in the town of Blairmore, and Grassy Mountain is about 7 kilometers north of the town of Blairmore. I began by visiting abandoned coal mining operations in that community, because the Crow's Nest Pass, coal mining was once considered the lifeblood of the Crow's Nest Pass, but the last coal mine closed in the early 1980s. So the Grassy Mountain Coal Project is sort of this way to bring coal back to this region that relied on it for many decades. So when visiting these abandoned mine sites, I was really drawn to the buildings, the surfaces. They feel very haunted. A lot of the materials and tools, coal carts, cores, the entrance to an underground mine that has now been shut and closed. It was a place to really understand the history in a very embodied way. One of the major series of works in the exhibition is a series of coal chute rubbings, and they're The series is called To Dig Holes in Pierce Mountains, Coal Chute Rubbings. So there's 11 drawings in the series, and each is the length of the coal chute that the rubbing was taken from. They're works created using charcoal on vellum, and the charcoal that I used was actually also taken from the location as well. As I was hiking in the area and getting to know the landscape, spending time there, I noticed how people are using the area and the region and finding ways to connect with the land. So I went to different campsites and picked up kind of natural charcoal that's left over from when you burn a fire. So that's the charcoal that is used to create these drawings.
Lethbridge has the coal mining history, and we're also close to the Crow's Nest Pass. The Blackfoot name for Lethbridge is Sik-Okatoki, which means black rock, so it refers to the coal deposits that the city rests on. She was going to address coal, but it was going to be from like a historic perspective. It was going to be from maybe she didn't yet know what the direction would be. But as she started to do the research and as she started to get interested and to go to the sites in the Crow's Nest Pass and to talk to people, that then it was what happened in the government and happened with the provincial government changing the coal policy and the hearings and things starting around the Grassy Mountain project.
I really wanted to connect the idea of movement, of life, and the land, but the systems of resource extraction and as tied to settler colonization and how these are imposed on the landscape and how they are now sitting very lifeless and abandoned, and I wanted to convey a sense of loss in the work. I was also thinking a lot about the threat of water contamination with open pit coal mining, and so hoping that these drawings might also suggest the flow of water.
A crucial part of this project is that art is research. So to think about the idea of art being research, there is, part of it is that what artists do, and curators as well, is that yes, do that kind of going through the archives. For this exhibition, Alana used the Galt Museum's archives. So there is looking at historical documents or imagery or things like that. So that maybe you can think of art as having research that leads up to it. But the key part is actually that the making of art itself is research, that it's like an experiment. So you start to make something, and then from that get the feedback and keep going, that the artist is actually thinking through making. And the other part of the research is also what happens to the visitor when they come to the gallery.
There's a number of pieces that visitors are invited to actually participate in or in a way enter into a collaboration with me. I invite them to complete a series of invisible drawings. So there's a table in the gallery where visitors are invited to sit and take a piece of charcoal and a piece of paper from a stack of paper in the center of the table. They're asked to rub the drawing with a piece of charcoal, and when they do that, it will reveal the image of the West Slope cutthroat trout, which is one of the many fish and at-risk species that is threatened with the Grassy Mountain Coal Project. Two of the creeks that are major habitat for this trout fall within the footprint of the project. So the participatory works are really a way to invite people to take part in the work, and so as they're revealing this image of the paper, I've been thinking a lot about the notion of invisibility with some of these issues. And although open pit coal mining is a really, we think about it on a massive scale because it is large, but sometimes these very large resource extraction projects and the impacts can still be very invisible to us. Another piece that is interactive is called Seeds for Grassy Mountain, and that piece was a collaborative artwork that I did with Latifa Peltier Ahmed. And what we wanted to do with this piece was to look at the plants that have been known to grow on Grassy Mountain, and really thinking about if there is an open pit coal mine completed there, how that's going to drastically change the landscape in ways that are so damaging and destructive. And that there's been so much loss of native plant species in the province already because of human impacts, climate change. And so it's, the piece is a series of seed packets, and there's about 11 different combinations of seeds, so there's all kinds of different plants that are included. And I also designed different images for the front of the seed packets. So one features the Crow's Nest watershed. Another one is an image of a plant growing out of a chunk of coal, which I call coal plant. And the third is a canary that is kind of upside down with its feet up. So not sure if it's dead or alive, and it's called a canary awaiting resuscitation. And so thinking about the metaphor of the canary in the coal mine, which is also something that connects back to the West Slope cutthroat trout, because they are now being called the new canary in the coal mine. The Plants of Grassy Mountain is another series of invisible drawings, and this time I used the heat of a candle to reveal the drawings, which are done in milk. And I also used charcoal. So on one side you see images of various plants that have been known to grow on Grassy Mountain or perhaps grow there today. And on the other side, it's the same images of plants, but I've used different techniques. In the center, you can see a video piece where you actually see that process of revealing the invisible images that have been drawn using milk. I come from a long line of water witches. Water witching, which is also known as dowsing, is a form of divination in which a person would use a tool. So sometimes it's a forked branch or a metal rod or a pendulum, and they would use that tool to locate underground water, but also dowsing has been used for finding mineral ores, even coal and oil, hidden objects or information. So as an artist, I'm also interested in using dowsing as a way to examine and really question our relationship to land and water, and also what are known as natural resources. In my research, I came across a woman who used dowsing in her work, and she was a really fascinating historical figure to me. Her name was Martine de Berthereau, and she lived and worked in France in the 17th century. She was one of the first recorded female mineralogists and a mining engineer. So she worked in the service of the monarchy in France and traveled throughout Europe. I became really fascinated with the use of these tools, and ultimately she was thrown in prison and accused of witchcraft. So her story is interesting to me because she participated in this very violent colonial system that she was ultimately killed by. So I've really embraced the kind of pop culture image of the witch. So you see these green witch hands in the exhibition. There are 4 sculptures, and they are all kind of balanced precariously on either chunks of coal or cores. And on top of the hands, they're balancing different dowsing rods. In the video works in the gallery as well, you'll see my hands, and they are the witch hands. So I was thinking about how Martine might inhabit my hands, and what would she do without her dowsing tools when confronted with the landscape of the Crow's Nest Pass, and thinking about and trying to grapple with this history of resource extraction.
When we started this project, it was in the before times of COVID-19. So when we had laid it out and done the grant proposal, it was going to involve extensive public engagement. And that was a main reason for choosing to work with Alana, was because of the success that she's done. So the idea was to have all these walks and talks and workshops where people would learn along with the artist, would meet scientists and Blackfoot elders, and would be able to, in person, learn together. So once COVID-19 hit, it became really clear that we could not do this project the way we had planned. So this is where I am just truly impressed with Alana's skills and flexibility. She moved to creating an absolutely terrific blog, putting her research online, producing videos and photographs, and creating all of this rich online material, which actually has a wonderful benefit that we're able to have it as a lasting record, and we're able to reach audiences outside of Lethbridge and southern Alberta. We're able to reach people who wouldn't have been able to be here for in-person activities.
Well, I think this project's been really important to me because it gave me the time and space to really develop this body of work. It's a all-new body of work. I think there's over 100 individual pieces in the exhibition, and it takes time to really think about and reflect on issues. And my previous work was also dealing or examining the oil and gas industry. So I knew that I was interested in continuing to look at resource extraction, and also to think about concepts of remediation and really interrogate, what we mean when we talk about remediation. Is it really about just repairing a polluted, poisoned, or damaged landscape when we talk about remediation in terms of the environment? How can we think about what it really means to remedy these places? So you have to go deeper, and you have to look at different sides of the issue, different perspectives, and different contexts. So part of the work has led to new relationships, new artworks, meeting new people, really interrogating what it means for me to be doing this work as a white settler Canadian, living on stolen Indigenous lands, and thinking about how I'm situating myself in the questions that I'm asking. So I think it's an ongoing process, and it's definitely made me reflect on the way that industry and government understands remediation, and really I see it used as a form of greenwashing to justify continued resource extraction and ongoing settler colonial violence in what is now known as Canada.